is a radiant lighthouse. Every encounter with her leaves you with profound wisdom and practical insights that fosters your emotional and professional relationships so that you become a more productive and fulfilled version of yourself. Fejiro is a chartered accountant with over 12 years' experience in the finance industry, a certified relationship and emotional intelligence coach, and the founder of Kafel Solutions, through which she and her team are dedicated to empowering businesses and career professionals to build and sustain robust relationships. She's also a family life practitioner and the founder of the askmrzsparkles Academy, where she's wholeheartedly building a tribe of enlightened and equipped singles, sparkling couples, and harmonized families through which she believes nations will be transformed. She is an associate of the Network of Family Systems Engineering and a member of the Institute of Family Life Association of America. She's happily married, and together they are blessed with two amazing boys. Ladies and gentlemen, MrzSparkles.
Hi everyone, good evening. Please let me know if you can hear me live and clear. Please let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. Please let me know if you can hear me. Can you hear me now? Awesome. Thank you so much. Sorry about the glitch with the whole network system. But we are back and we are going to do that. The devil likes it or not, we're going to shine. So I'm going to read Ife's bio again. She's here with us, and then we're going to bring her on board right away. Okay? I'm going to read her bio right away. I will just give a brief version now so that we don't waste time, and then I'll bring her on board. So Ifechukwu Adigwe is a certified service professional and has over a decade experience in the telecommunications industry. She is a certified master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming. She also has a master certification in family life practice as well as emotional intelligence and life coaching. She's been married for 13 years and she lives in Lagos, Nigeria with her children. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome aboard for me, Coach Ife. Please, please. Welcome, 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 welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well,
Ladies, can you hear us? All right, great. How are you doing tonight?
I'm fine. I'm very well. Thank you. I'm excited to
I
be
hope I
here.
did not bring your
And
energy.
thank you so much for inviting me.
Awesome. You are welcome. Please, let's put some dancing emoji in the chat. Let's welcome our guests. Tonight is going to be insightful and also interesting. And I was sharing some minutes ago as to why we are doing this. And I was trying to say that we give so much attention to, you know, not even so much, not as much as we ought to, premarital counseling, and we just jump into marriage. But if we start on time, right from the dating experience, it will be better. So, Coach Ife, we want to take you back a bit to your dating season. That's like almost 2 decades backward, right? I want to take you back. And before I begin to ask some deep questions, tell us, how was growing up for you like, for as far as you can remember? And how has that influenced, or how did that influence your decisions when it came to dating?
Basically, that's a long one. All right. So,
Yes.
growing up, I grew up in a family of six parents,
Okay.
two parents, my mom and my dad, and three siblings. So we were four. And
Mm,
my home was it was fun loving, but then I had a dad who was quite strict. Yes,
mm,
and basically he instilled a lot of values in us, myself and my siblings, and basically My dad was the kind of dad that would not approve of you um, standing on the street to talk to any boy, or he wouldn't like guys to talk to you. You know, he was always very protective. And his own notion was like, he always said something. He always said that guys and girls can never be friends, right? So his own ideology is that when it's time for you to marry, then you know it's time to date. So there was nothing like, oh, I needed to date. There was nothing like that, because he every guy was a suspect. Do you get? So now fast forward to going to the university, right?
Okay.
I had a lot of things that shaped, you know, my values with respect to dating. Sorry, I'm sweating. For some reason, my my ventilating system has just packed up. So
I don't know why
I'll have to be
all the technical experts are trying to do us tonight, but it will
I'll
not
have
work.
to
This
be
section will be
I'll have to be
so sorry.
fanning myself, or
Sorry.
it won't stop us from doing what we want to do.
So sorry.
Right.
Thank
So
you.
then back then, before I got into school, you know, I had a lot of undergraduates around, you know, coming in. I had elder ones who were already in the university, you know, and sometimes they will have conversations around, you know, the how they used to put it then, like the Jambite rush, you know, like when Jambites come into school, like freshmen, they come into school, especially
Yeah.
girls, and then, or rather, freshers come into school. So every guy now breaks up with their girlfriends, their original steady girlfriends, and then they want to date um, people, the freshers that have just gotten into school. And
Yeah.
it was just that thing about, you know, just who will you date and all that. So that ideology kind of didn't go down well with me, right? So it made me have that mindset that, you know, every guy, you know, was just out to date you, you know, just for dating, for the fun of it, and not just that the person wants to date you because the person is serious about you, or the person is
Yeah.
authentic or genuine, right? Right. So
Yes.
kind of when I was in the university, I had a lot of friends who were guys, right? But then I couldn't really get myself to date people while in school, because I had all those wrong ideologies. Do you get? And then
Yeah.
some fears that were just not spoken, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I had very good guys. I had friends, you know, would go out and all that, but still, you know, I struggled with dating, right? So fast forward to when I was now ready to date. Okay, would I say that I had like I had built a lot of walls around me, right? That actually made it difficult for people to penetrate me, right? So because I had that mindset that every guy was after me, you know, I needed to step up my game so that, you know, I could checkmate them, right? But then if I were to tell you everything, you know, about the, you know, dating period and meeting people, I think maybe we may not be
Yeah.
able to get to what we want to do tonight.
Got to get.
So
Yeah.
let me just
Yeah.
fast forward to meeting my husband, okay? And you know, when I
Yeah.
met him, I still had that my defensiveness, that my
Yeah.
I was always ready to, like, you know, I didn't just want to get married. Let me just be straight, because it's important that since we're having series like this, it's important to just be quite honest. You know, I felt like,
Okay.
you know, getting married or dating had a lot to do with curbing my freedom, you know, so I didn't want to lose my sense of freedom. right? Then again, I had a fear that I didn't know who was genuine.
Mm,
Okay.
mm,
Right.
mm.
So it
Yeah.
actually influenced a lot of things. So when I met my husband, it took him a while before he would ask me out, but then I always look for something to say. If I noticed that the
Wow.
relationship was maybe getting to that point where the person would ask me for serious, maybe
Commitments.
asking me to date them, or maybe
Yeah.
translating into maybe marriage, I would just gingerly
Mm.
remove myself from that relationship, because it wasn't really what my goal was. Now, silently,
Yeah.
right? Um, in my heart, I really, really wanted to marry.
Okay.
Right?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
I have been going for marriage courses. I've been
Oh,
reading marriage books and all that.
okay.
But for some reason, subconsciously, these silent fears would not let me even open up to experience, a love
Hmm.
relationship. Do you get? So when I
Yes.
met my husband, he said it was a little bit difficult to penetrate me. Then at some point,
Hmm.
he became confused, like, this
What
today,
do you
you are
want?
like, oh, you're excited, we're everywhere, we're
Mhm.
gisting. Then the next
Yeah.
minute, the mood swing comes, then the fear comes. In fact, I'm literally really afraid. Like, I remember, like,
Yeah.
this guy is really coming in and coming so closely. He knows everyone. He has met my parents. He went to the east
Yeah.
sometime, met my parents. So I was even becoming scared, like, so
Mm.
those walls that I told you that I built around me so that people won't penetrate me, I felt as if the
Yeah.
walls were kind of crumbling. Do you
Mm.
get? So
Yeah.
when I noticed that I'm actually letting my guards down,
Mm-hmm.
I find myself beginning to bring up fights in the relationship, so that,
Yeah.
he will just get
Let's
out of
go.
me and leave.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So this went on, and he said he was feeling like I was confusing him,
Hmm.
and so
Yeah.
at some point I realized that I couldn't continue that way. Okay, to come
Hmm.
out straight,
Yeah.
I have to, we had a conversation, and I told him
Yeah.
what my fears were, and
Okay.
why, I had, all the fears, all the worries or
Yeah.
concerns about the relationship, and that
Mm-hmm.
actually turned a new leaf in our dating relationship, because he actually understood me from
Wow.
where I was coming from, right? And
Mm.
he actually was now patient. So
Mm.
being vulnerable was one, to let him know that, okay, these were the things, the fears I was dealing with. Then
Yeah.
again, also being at that place where I was self-aware, I needed to reflect, right? To let
Mm.
me, to tell myself the truth, because one thing is
Yeah.
needful when you're about to date, or when you're in a dating relationship, you want to
Yeah.
be true to yourself, right?
Mm.
Yeah,
True.
so I knew
True.
that, yes, in as much as I needed and I wanted to have a flourishing relationship, I knew that
Mm-hmm.
the things that, those fears that I had, those silent fears, will not let me
Yeah.
express myself, will not let me step out of my comfort zone, will not let me even
Yeah.
open my heart to love someone. So I needed
Mm.
to actually self-reflect, to begin
Yeah.
to trace down the roots, of these
Mm.
unspoken
Yeah.
fears, right? So
Mm-hmm.
while I had some time to reflect, I noticed that, you know, um, I had the my upbringing, okay, had a lot to do
Yeah.
with, okay, my decision to want to stay alone, because I
Yeah.
felt like, marriage had a lot to do with control, right? And
Yeah.
a sanguine, so most people who have personality, do not necessarily like to, be under rules and regulations to speak, right? And then because I saw a lot of parents, husbands, being in total control of, and then it looked as if some of the women couldn't express themselves, they couldn't live out their potentials. I didn't want to be in that space. I was someone that I'm someone that is very daring. I had a lot of dreams. So in my heart, yes, I wanted to get married, but then I didn't want that marriage, to actually box me in.
Yeah.
Right? Then notice that the people that modeled relationships, so to speak, to me, the ones I saw were the ones empowering. Because I remembered really that we had a neighbor who literally beat up his girlfriend every now and then. And in my heart, as a young child, I think I was even in maybe like primary or secondary, I told myself that if relationship had to do with somebody always crying and somebody chasing the other person out, they were living in our BQ back then. It wasn't really something that I readily wanted to do. Then I had neighbors who were always having squabbles with their, in the family. So for me, it wasn't just what I didn't want that headache, right? I wanted to live out my full potential. I wanted to fly. I wanted to be happy. I wanted to be free.
Yeah.
Then I was afraid of responsibilities. I didn't want to be in that space where I'll have so much to think about and all that. But then by the time I was able to trace the roots of it, now I came to terms with the fact that, can you hear me?
I can clearly.
Can you hear me?
I
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Feju, are you there? Okay.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay. So, I came to terms with the fact that because someone's relationship was not right growing up did not mean that mine would automatically be the same. Right? So it came to a point where I needed to question my fears. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I needed to question my fears. So when I started questioning my fears, it became a lot better. And I had to make a conscious effort to tell myself that, I've just met a great guy and, I wanted to give it, a chance. Right?
Sure.
Now, remember that I've been vulnerable to share, to let him know that I wasn't in, what actually the fears I had and all that. And, he promised me that he wasn't going to pressure me. So we started a relationship. Yeah, it wasn't as though the fears, disappeared completely. No, but then, whenever those fears come, I kind of had some phrases I would use, to challenge those fears. Then I decided to now intentionally look for role models that I would look out for who shared a beautiful relationship. Because for me as a person, I've always admired relationships from afar. I've always wanted bliss, but then because of those little fears that I had, I couldn't get myself to be in a relationship. But then when I now made up my mind, I realized that I need to intentionally, begin to practice some of those key learnings that I learned, I got from books, from seminars, so I needed to unlearn some of those my patterns. I needed to intentionally break down those walls. And then when I did, I realized that, having a relationship, a love relationship, was really a very beautiful thing. I realized that the stories that I told myself, okay, over the years were quite disempowering, and I realized that I could step out of my head, and then allow myself to be human, and enjoy a relationship. So that was how, the relationship began to flourish, and, we had a good time, only up until we were discussing everything. In fact, this relationship, there was no pretense. Okay, I will tell you that how I was before I got married. I don't think there's anything too different from how I am as in when I was dating my husband till now. There's really no difference, because we made up our minds to, be authentic and be genuine. So we had a lot of conversations. We shared the same values, like the speakers that spoke yesterday and the day before. We shared the same, almost similar beliefs. But then there was one thing that was kind of putting us apart, which was in the area of our choice of worship. Now, for me, I grew up as an Anglican, but then my husband grew up as a core Catholic, Roman Catholic, But when I went to school, you know how it is, I joined the Pentecostal fold, so I started enjoying, just being in church, standing, it was just so different from the traditional worship, form of worship, right? So he was like, is a committed Roman Catholic. And then for me, I told myself again that if he had to do with me going to a Catholic church, I wouldn't do that and all that. So we kept on avoiding that conversation till we became so serious and we needed to have that conversation, right? So when we had this conversation, nobody was willing to compromise. So at that point, I told my husband that I was done. I was broken, right? But then in my heart, like, if it's not a particular church, then I wasn't going to continue.
Yeah.
Right? So fast forward to me now going to work, because then I was working in a telecoms company. So I was speaking to a friend of mine who happened to be a pastor's wife. So she now asked me about him. I was like, we've broken up, blah, blah, blah. So she asked me to take a sheet of paper, right, and write all the great qualities that I admired in my boyfriend at that time, which is my husband now. And I should now, on the flip side of the paper, I should write some of the qualities that was like the deal breaker for me, that that I didn't really admire in him. And then I wrote and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote all the great qualities. In fact, when I met him, I felt that I had met the man of my dreams. Like he had all the great qualities that I had always wanted in a guy, right? Me. She said, is this reason enough for you to lose your relationship? Right? Is he not a Christian? And I said, he's a Christian. So she now said, so where did you get it that Catholic people are not Christians? Right? Now, remember that I was going to a Pentecostal church. I was already close to my pastor.
Yeah.
Who was already kicking against it, like, why would you want to do this? Why would you want to restrict yourself? That kind of thing. And I knew that he had all the right intentions, right? But then when I sat down to reflect, I realized that a lot of young people, or a lot of Christians, base their judgments, without actually sitting in to find out why they do what they do. Let me take it again. I realized that a lot of people are after the denomination that someone goes to as against having a relationship with God, right? So I had to take my time. I had to sit down. I had to pray. I had to study. I had to make a decision, right? And then when I decided that I was going to go ahead because I had a sense of peace. Okay, this guy shares my values, the values that I want. This is a guy that always tries to help me to become the better version of myself. Then I was now wondering why I would actually let this relationship go. Okay, because I felt that he was not worshiping where I wanted us to worship. Right. So I called him, we had that conversation, long conversation and all that, and then we moved past it. Right. So when we were able to now have the conversation, then after the engagement came, and today we're 13 years into the relationship. Right. And I can tell you for free that I am extremely happy. I can tell you for free that I have grown to that level where I know that, worshiping God is something that has to be personal. I've come to terms with the fact that it is one thing for someone to come, people wanting to tell you how you should run your life, but you need to know your why. You need to know the purpose for which you want to be in a relationship. You need to know, the things that you are actually looking out for. Yes, while everybody may have your best interest at heart, based on their own meaning, you want to be able to come out to know who you are as a person. You want to come to terms with fact that you want to know where you're going and what you actually want out of life, which has always been what the previous speakers have been talking about. So I'm not saying that if my pastor advising me not to go ahead with the relationship, that he was wrong. I felt that he was advising me based on the knowledge that he already had, right? He didn't know this guy. All he knew and he didn't like was the fact that he was going to a Catholic church, right? So what I have known today, I've grown to that point where I go to the Catholic church and I worship and I'm happy being there. Interestingly, we also fellowship. We also fellowship even in non-Catholic church today, and he actually enjoys it too, right? So it's not about people condemning other people because of their denomination. It's about you knowing, okay, who you are, knowing where you stand in Christ as a Christian. And then for a Muslim person, you want to also know where this person stands, right? So my husband had a lot of values, that I could emulate. So my friend asked me, he said, did you know that? My friend said something, said, did you know that there are some people that are going to that church, that you're going to, that don't even have half as the values that he has? But then you will now go and get into the wrong hands and then be unhappy for the rest of your life because you're chasing denomination. So the goal is to shift your focus from the denomination to the source, right, which is God, to the source, which is Christ, as against just basing all your judgments, on congregation or the denomination that someone goes to. Yeah, so I don't know if I've actually answered your question about a little bit of my dating experience.
One area that initially that you specifically said what you want, because whilst your own desire was all of the portraits could not miss that single thing, other person this denomination is key. I want to emphasize that it's
Absolutely.
marriage to enjoy or endure it. And that's why we are friends as share experience. Everything has if you and that's the you must know yourself. Know your mommy mentioned that know your values, things that I bring God in the conversation because hey, I jeopardize they cannot do without they come for me. Right. And when you talk about fear on not living out dreams or your career and being to be single people who are scared of that. They don't want to, share their private. They want that moment when they want to be on by their they want to be married and still nurture yourself. You have that be yourself to handle.
First of all, I'd like to say that um, I my decision, right, to marry my husband is actually one of the best decisions that I've made in my life.
Wow.
Outside making a commitment to God, right? Now, I realized that I actually married someone who is not even afraid of
Mm-hmm.
anything I become, right? He's not afraid of me shining. He's someone that keeps on pushing me. He always tells me that you can, did you know that, anything you put your mind to, that you have a way of achieving it, right? I'm a coach today. I have a lot of certifications today, and that's because I have a great support system, right? So as it is, the other day we were even gisting, and then he was telling me that, do I know that what is remaining now is PhD? I'm like, do you know if I'm even interested in if I'm even interested in PhD? And it was like, yeah, but it's something that you can actually achieve. So um for me, I'm actually at that place where I'm free to be myself. And remember that I told you that when we started, we started on the authentic, the level. We had like a no pretense zone, right? So as it is, any idea that I bring up today, right, is even the first person to say, okay, why don't we just try it out?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I realize now that marriage is even a place where, if you're married to house, right, or if you are married to someone who you share the same values with, begin to bloom, right? Sometimes I will even I would I would crack a joke with him. I'll tease him that, do being married to the right spouse, whether a man or a woman, actually propel you to live that dream, to actually become a better version of yourself. You get ahead.
Yeah.
The problem is that because a lot of singles, what happens these days is that when they are in a relationship, it's as though everybody, the relationship is not quite defined. It's as if maybe the time that they need to have all those conversations that are kind of meaningful, that will even help them to know whether they are both in alignment with each other. You would notice that it's being exchanged for, let me say, things that are not so relevant.
Yeah.
I don't know if you get what I mean. A lot of people are under the pressure to get married these days,
Yes.
So you will notice that what people do is that they over most important things like values, like the communication or the kind of conversations that they need to have. People are not even prepared to even get married in the first place. You will notice a lot of people, they just want to jump into it, right? Probably because they are scared that the time is running out. Some people will say you need to lower your standards. You need to just get married. And the funniest thing, if you get married to anybody, it has the capacity to influence the outcome of the results that you have in life. So making a marriage decision for me is something that is very vital, is something that should be taken very seriously, okay, by any single who wants to go far in life. Because if you get married to someone who believes that the place of the woman is in the kitchen, you will notice that when you always have conflicts. Because when you want to, maybe you're thinking about how you're going to travel the world, have your own business, maybe be engaged in have speaking engagements, pardon me, somebody is telling you that your place is in the kitchen. Do you get? Somebody is telling you that maybe he doesn't really believe that a woman should be greater than the man. So you want to be sure of who you want to work with, who you want to be with, who you want to marry as a single. So I can tell you that being married today, I'm able to do what I'm doing. I'm able to live my life. I'm able to, live my dreams. Every day keeps on unfolding. And that is because I have a great support system. I have somebody who I can share my ideas with, who is not even afraid of me, becoming great or becoming famous. For him, he's my number one fan. And that is because, we knew what we wanted from the onset. Right? So it's
Thank you so much. There is congruence. All of the question is coming to my views of single. When we very open that in a relationship, the more of same thing that now my head just thinking who gets married, they get into it and realize that he's not open, she's not open. I begin to how did we this at beginning dating? How did they started dating? I want some of the same guys and ladies who are here. How can I support the person authentic? How can I identify when they get or they don't what they are not supported?
okay. Thank you so much for that question. When I started, I said that there was need for self-awareness, right? You want to be able to even know who you are. You want to be able to take time to realize, okay, what are the things that are important to me as a person? What are the things, because the relationship starts with you as a person. Oftentimes I've seen a lot of singles or young people or even couples who always point the accusing finger at the next person. They always see the wrong things about the person that they are dating or they are married to. But the truth is that the first place to start with is yourself. There's need to work on yourself as an individual. There's need for you to know the things that you want. And then when you get into a relationship, You want to know that it's not all relationships that will end in marriage. So, yes, because oftentimes when, growing up then, once you just see any guy, maybe he's walking and then he comes to, ask you out, the assumption of people around you and even yourself, there's something at the back of your mind. You begin to ask yourself, oh, is he the one? Is he the one? Do you get? So, first of all, you need to know that not all relationships will lead to marriage. You want to know that you are a unique person and the person you are meeting is also unique, is also different, is different from you. You want to be able to be sure that when you are in that relationship, you're paying attention to details. If you say, for example, that a lot of people say, oh, he hid everything from me, probably you were not paying attention. Were you really paying attention? If you say that, like I knew there was a guy that was asking me out when I was in, I think, youth service, and then he would treat me nicely and all that. But when he's driving his car and maybe a cyclist comes next to him, or maybe somebody, maybe he's buying something and somebody irritates him, the way he will shout, at the people around him, the way he actually exhibits like outburst of rage, I didn't need a soothsayer to tell me that this guy had anger management problems. As much as I want to get into his car, he will open the door, he wants to be all gentle. But when he's driving, you should see how he's insulting people. You should see how he maybe somebody wants to makes a mistake. There was a particular day we were driving and somebody kind of smashed his car a little bit, brushed his car, let's use the word brush. And then he stepped on the accelerator with anger. Then he was like, that if I could get this guy, I would hit him. Then he realized that he was with me. Then he now said, oh, I wasn't going to do that, I was just, it was just one of those moments. So for me, I already knew that this is a no-no. So it is in the conversations that you have. You need to pay attention. It's in the things that this person does, right? Is in how it treats other people, right? Is in you also knowing what your values are. What are you looking for in a relationship? And Fejiro, there's something again that singles do. Like they have they build a lot of will I say castles in the air, like having unrealistic expectations, right? And that kind of also holds them back. So sometimes you will see that the role models that they have for relationship is maybe a Zero World kind of love, or what's the other one? Telemundo kind of love. So the idea is that once you're in a relationship, once the guy is romantic or once the lady is romantic, once they're able to play soft music for you, you feel that all that there is to relationship is the romantic sides to it, right? They think is that that those long midnight calls, maybe dressing to match with the hands, and all that. But the truth is that is not all their relationship. In fact, when you eventually date this person and then you get married, somebody said that all those skills that you have in your eyes, that it will just fall off. So you want to be able to start from a place of knowing what you want. You want to know what love means to you. You want to be able to know what marriage means to you. You want to be able to have those honest conversations about what your individual values, your vision is. What do you see? Where do you see yourself in future? You know, some of those critical discussions, you know, I'm not saying once you just meet somebody, you just say, hey, what is your 10-year plan? Hey, what is your, no, that's not what I'm talking about. But, you know, in the midst of everything, you want to be able to take time, you know, to find, you know, conversations around things that matter to you. You must not even ask it as a direct question. You can even, you know, paint a picture or a scenario. Okay, maybe you're telling him about a friend that this happened to and that happened to. You know, watch his demeanor, watch the way he would you know, respond, you know, watch, you know, what he would say and all that. And then if you're in a relationship also, and you notice that this relationship is toxic, you know, and then you're telling yourself that that's another thing that singles do. They'll tell themselves that, oh, they've been in this relationship for a long time. How can I throw away 5 years? You know, it's been a long time. How I've invested a lot. I always tell people that a broken relationship, right, is better, far better than, you know, getting married and then eventually going your separate ways. I'm not saying that being divorced is hard, but then you want to come from that place where you are actually having deep conversations and then being very honest, you know, about it. No pretense, really. Yeah, so that's what I think that they should be doing. Have honest conversations.
Yeah, I like the way you emphasized how to, you know, get thought process from the mind of the partner. Because some people just go there and say, eh, so are you this or are you that? So I like the way you were able to really explain it, that you need to find ways to infuse it in the conversation. And even when you're getting a response that shocks you, guess what? You want to be able to stay through to the end of that conversation so that they don't see your own response and change their mind. I was just joking because they have seen, yes, they have seen how you have responded.
Teju, I wanted to add that, you know, this thing about when you meet a guy or you meet a lady and then you begin to list all the things I don't like. I don't like smokers. I don't like clubbing. I don't like music. I don't like this. I don't like that. As long as the person really wants to date you, the person can decide to pretend and just be that person that you want them to be. So it's always good that you even allow the person to be himself or herself. That is even a great place to start, being yourself. I usually tell people that, okay, because you're getting into a relationship and you know that you're not somebody that is domesticated, don't go and start pretending that you can wash clothes, you can clean house, you can cook, you can iron. And then when you now, and this guy probably is what maybe his love language is acts of service, right? And then you come every day, you just clean the whole house. And then the guy will be thinking that you're domestication. And then eventually you now get married. And then you now say, oh, you know, you don't really like doing some of those things. You know, you would notice that relationship was that relationship started on a wrong foundation.
Yeah.
Right? You want to be able to come as you are. Now, I'm not saying go and be rude. I'm not saying maybe don't go the extra mile, but don't pretend to be somebody that you're not. Like for a guy now who says, okay, maybe every time your girlfriend comes, you know that you are just maybe a salary and I just started work. And then you want to begin to show that, you know, you have money. You be sending flight ticket up and down, you borrow and send flight tickets. You know, anything, maybe anything. I'm not saying don't buy things for your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your fiance. That's not what I'm saying. But come from that place of being authentic and genuine. When somebody loves you for who you are, you will find out that your life is better for it, as against when you are actually painting a wrong picture. And then when eventually that you guys end up together because you just want to get married, there's bound to be conflict. There's bound to be conflict. So you need to be genuine. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. People are saying the network is breaking. I feel like it's mine, but I will try not to talk too much so that we can wrap up. It's already past 9. If you have any questions, please drop it in the chat. I think I have one or two more and then we'll wrap it up. So, if you've been married for 13 years now and counting, what would you say has helped you to stay happily married? I know that we are not perfect. So I know that in as much as you're in marriage, you and your husband have differences. How have you been able to manage those differences? And can you please share some real life will I say ways that you have navigated those differences and you are still going on? Or would I put it this way? Who do we need to be as individuals? So we're not passing to anybody. Who do we need to be to sustain a relationship?
Okay, you know that, Fejiro, when you asked me this question, I just had a very wide smile. I don't know if you
Yeah,
noticed.
right.
Because myself and my husband are two parallel
Wow.
personalities.
Wow.
So he's more like a choleric,
Hmm.
or what we call the intimidating Homer in
Yeah.
family life,
Yeah.
and a melancholy or a
Hmm.
systematic fraud. And I'm more of a core sanguine, you know,
Ha.
and
Ha, ha.
with
Wow.
personal development, I'm doing my best to have a balance. So when we
Yeah.
got married newly, because he's someone that has lived for a long time as a single person, he
Hmm.
was used to staying on his own, and he wasn't used to communicating. So that was like a kind of a source of conflict for
Hmm.
us, because
Hmm.
the truth is that in every relationship there must be conflict at all times, right? So then I used to wonder, I would
Hmm.
ask him, so is it that you don't know how to open your mouth, and say something? He'd be like, oh, but what do you want me to say? Something, just say something. But then I was now
Yeah.
becoming frustrated with the fact that I was trying to make him become
Mhm.
like that, playful. So I was trying so hard to change
Yeah.
his personality, and I realized that
Hmm.
this is not who he is. Yes, he smiles or he talks
Yeah.
and all that, but he can't be like me. So one thing I
Yes.
did was accepting my relationship with him as it is, accepting him
Hmm.
for who he is, and then he accepting me as I am, okay, was the
Yeah.
starting point, right? We
Hmm.
also had to let go of certain traditional cultures that we brought from our own
Hmm.
families, right?
Yeah.
Like we had one conflict at a point where there was a certain thing that they used to do in a certain way in his home, and then
Hmm.
when we got married, he noticed that I wasn't doing that, and he said he felt like he was being disrespected. So by the time we
Okay.
talked about it, right, he realized that that was not even what respect meant to him.
Hmm.
So we
Yeah.
just
People do.
discarded that. We just made the decision to discard some of the traditions that we came from our original families, and then we had to
Hmm.
create a new culture for our
Culture.
own family. Then
Yeah.
again, this I came in. I came in with 100% commitment. I started this relationship with the mindset that I am going to be in this relationship. I don't know if you get what I
Hmm.
mean.
Yes.
Like,
Yes. No
there's
way.
nothing like there's no open door. There's something that you just get married and tell yourself that I beg go. If it doesn't work, I just leave.
Yeah.
I didn't go with that mindset, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I'm not in that space where I begin to calculate who did what. Do you
Hmm.
get? I give it my 100%. Right?
Yeah.
There are some places where you find out that he also does, what he can do, wholeheartedly. So in our relationship, there's open communication. I've given I will give it, 100%. Nobody's checking who did what. Do you get? There's nothing like measuring, because we believe in our own relationship that marriage is teamwork.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. So accepting him as he is, him accepting me as I am, and that extends to our extended family members. Do you get? Yeah. And then again, there's absolute trust. If I tell you that my husband cannot keep his phone here, and then I will just pick the phone and maybe run to the toilet and start snooping around to check, okay, who is he chatting with? So if I find out who he's chatting with, what will I do with it? Do you get? Yeah, so the same thing with me. He doesn't bother me with maybe somebody calls and he start asking me, who is that person calling? Or maybe I go somewhere and he starts telling me, like some of these people do, some of these singles do, oh, tell me you love me. Where are you? You are not saying it loud. Say it loud so that somebody, all of those insecurities are not there, because there's absolute trust.
Yes.
So even when I feel that, okay, if there's something I have, maybe that doesn't go down well with me, I'd rather ask. It's better that you even ask than you assume.
Yes.
Do you know that assumption almost ruined my relationship with my husband, my marital relationship, when we got married newly? Because something would happen. I'll begin to say, hey, maybe it's because I'm married in my head, or is it because I'm now here? Blah, 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 blah. Even when I had my first surprise gift, my marriage, my first gift from him, pardon me.
Yeah.
They were even hiding it, it was actually a car. And when he was hiding with his husband, with his brother and all that, in my mind, I was like, why is he coming back late? He's coming back late now because we just got married and he feels that he can come back late. So even when he now came upstairs, I had told myself that I was going to stonewall. Before he came into the house, I was going to stonewall him. I won't answer him, blah, blah, blah. So when he came to tell me that, oh, his friend is actually looking for me. So I eventually went down, reluctantly to speak to his friend, because in my mind I had planned not to talk to him at all. Kind of thing. I was really planning, only for me to now get downstairs, and then he handed me the key.
Hi, God.
I was tired. You get? I was weak. So I realized that all I needed to do was just ask. Now, there were so many other episodes where maybe something will happen, and then I'll begin to assume that, oh, he did this because of that. And then when we have that conversation, I would realize that he didn't even mean any of those things. It was not even those things that I thought. So in a relationship, in a marital relation, never assume what the other person is thinking about. Never assume that your spouse knows what you want. Relationship, you must have conversations. You must have communication. If there's something that doesn't go down well with you, ask. It's better you ask and then you hear from the person than you assuming that you know and then begin it out. Then again, there's friendship. I enjoy an amazing friendship, right? With myself, even because we actually have a knowledge of each other's love language, makes it easier for us to connect. I like that I can crack jokes. I like that the fact that I can be silly, right? And I'm not really, I'm not uptight when it comes in home. I'm just myself. The relationship started on the basis of authenticity and genuineness and openness. Do you understand? And then the last thing I would say is actually coming from the place of forgiveness. You always step on each other's toes. there'll be areas where
Always.
you don't agree, and knowing the kind of our personalities, they are different, so our
Yes.
style of parenting too, right, sometimes
Mm.
can be quite conflicting, because he is somebody that likes order, he likes everything to be arranged, and I'm the kind of person that, like,
That's for me.
sometimes just let them be, let them be their children, let them be, that kind of thing, and there was
Yes.
a time we had a major disagreement over the parenting style, but there's
Yeah.
something that we do our best to, iron issues out. We find a way to just, mend our relationship. If there's any
Mm.
conflict, there's nobody, I'm not afraid to say I'm sorry. I'm not afraid
Yeah.
to reflect and say, okay, I was wrong here. Because in your relationship, you're a team.
Yeah.
If you're in Arsenal, for example, or if you are in Chelsea or Real Madrid, you will realize that everybody plays for a common goal.
Yeah.
So you will never see a striker turn and score his same team, right?
Yeah.
That is
Mm-hmm.
the same mindset we have in our own relationship. We are a
Mm-hmm.
team. Anything I do and say that I want to be able to hurt, if I decide to hurt my husband, my spouse, I'm actually hurting
Yeah.
myself, right?
Mm.
So ironing things out, being open, knowing when to forgive, knowing when to say you are sorry, and knowing
Yeah.
that conflict will always arise, and then
Yes.
us reminding ourselves of those little things that endeared us to each other. Like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we still go on, like, maybe our anniversary, we just disappear
Yeah.
from the house. We go
Yeah.
somewhere together, we spend our
Mm-hmm.
anniversary. Sometimes if it was a weekend, then it becomes a getaway, that kind of
Nice one.
thing. And then sometimes we go,
Yeah.
yeah, we go out, we just sit down, we talk,
Mm-hmm.
and then being able to, be at that place where you can deeply connect, and
Yeah.
then we actually invest in personal development a lot, you know, um,
Okay.
growing ourselves. There are
Yeah.
sometimes I'm the one that sometimes, gets to, do a lot of audio reading because of kind of work we do. And then many times I
Okay.
also get to share with these are the things that, I learned. And there's something I
Nice.
want to say to you before I leave. While I was talking, I realized that um, during our courtship, I was that kind of person who was a spendthrift.
Mm.
Anybody can come to me and tell me anything. As long as that
Yeah.
my money is in my account, I'll just give. So when it came
Mm.
to the time for us, sorry that I'm taking us back. When it came
It's
to,
fine.
for us, the time for us to get married,
Mm.
and then I wanted that Cinderella kind of wedding.
A
Do you get?
shade.
I wanted
Yeah.
flowers. I
Yes.
wanted
Just
it, overboard. I wanted everything to just, I'll just be saying, "Now, let's do it like this." He'll say, "Okay, why
yeah.
don't we?" Because he's an accountant, just like you.
Ah, oh my God.
So,
It's my God.
so he's
That's very,
kind of having a budget, and me, I'm like, "Let's not spend this money. I beg, let's not spend this money." That by the
mm.
time I was getting married, I didn't have any saving. So when we got married,
Wow.
at a point, I needed to hand over the leadership of that, my, financial um
Mm-hmm.
of my life, to somebody who knew how to do it, right? And then by the time, I grew into it, right?
Mm.
I can
Mm-hmm.
tell you for free that, you know, um, a certain income can come in, and then he says, okay, something just came in, I just transfer to your account, because he knows that he can trust me now. Right? So
Yes.
when you're in a relationship, you want to be able to be there for your partner. There are areas where you have weaknesses. There are areas that
Yes.
your partner is. has strength, whether you are the man or you are the woman. If you know that your partner, is a little bit more, if you know that your partner is more developed, or your partner has a strength in a particular aspect in your relationship, maybe your marriage, maybe spirituality, maybe financial wise, why don't you allow the person to take the lead in that area? And then allow the person to mentor you. And then if it is an area where you guys notice that you are having a challenge in that relationship, right? You can also get somebody to mentor you. You can enroll for courses, right? So every relationship is figure outable. Let me borrow the language of one of my mentors. She says everything is figure outable, right? So one thing is needful. You must be committed. You must be proactive. There must be absolute trust. And then you must come from that place where you're communicating. You should be able to also apologize when you're wrong. And then not being afraid, right, to accept, when you make mistakes, you adjust and then you keep on moving, right? So there's always room for growth. Marriage indeed is a beautiful thing. Marriage indeed is a wonderful thing. If only you can find the right person, the right partner. Let me not say the word right partner. If you can only find someone who aligns with what you truly want. Because the truth is that there's no human being on earth that God created and they said, this is the right partner. You are actually the one that can make yourself the right partner in that relationship to be able to get what you want out of it. In marriage, I want to end like this, that in marriage is like a seed, right? It's like a seed that you plant, right? The farmer goes to the farm. He plants a seed. Let us say he plants a cashew nut. He finds he waters it. He ensures that the weeds don't, choke, the seed as it's actually beginning to grow. You will notice that the farmer takes absolute care of, his crops until it is time for it to be harvested, right? The same way it is for marriage. It is what you give to it that you receive out of it. It is what you invest in your marriage that you receive out of it. If you plant good seeds, if you do everything that you're supposed to do, right, that propels you to have an empowered or a blissful relationship, you will get bliss. If you decide to sow the tares into your relationship, you will get tares. So sometimes people say marriage is terrible, marriage is evil. Marriage is innocent, like we say in family life. Marriage is innocent. It is the individuals in this marriage that determine whether the marriage will be successful or blissful, or whether the marriage, would actually collapse. So that is where I will be drawing the curtain, except you have any other question for me.
Thank you so much. No, I don't, but 3 questions already waiting here for you in the chat, and they are very intelligent questions. I think I want us to talk. But thank you so much. That was really the way you broke that down for us to understand. He has a question here. Oh, my network is rolling and rolling and rolling. I can't see the question.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
I was actually trying to read the question. I don't know if you can see the chats.
Okay, let me see. How do I access it? No, I don't think I have access to the chats.
Okay, are rolling. I was going to ask a question. I actually asked a question around values. The person was saying, must the values align? Like, must my top 3 values with my partner's top 3 values? Or does the person just have to be, okay with the values that I have, and maybe the person respected. I'm just summarizing because I can't see the chat for a minute. But the person was just trying to say, must my top values, core values, be the same thing exact with the core values of my partner?
Okay, that's a very wonderful question.
Yeah.
You know, these days, you hear people saying a lot about values, right?
Yeah.
Now, your values must not be totally the same. Why? Because you are, as someone that is dating, right? Your values, your personal values may vary, right? But then you want to be able to single out on the ones that are important to you.
True.
Right? For example, when I was dating my husband, I knew that family was a value that he held dear, right, to his heart. I'm somebody that is also very big on family. So imagine that maybe as I'm big on family and I got married to someone who doesn't really have share the same value with respect to family. Like for me, family is a place where I get the end value of love. I get, you know, there's a means value. For me, the family is a means value to the end. The end is actually love for me. The end is togetherness for me. The end is connection for me. Imagine me now. In fact, I even met someone. Yeah, I met someone who told me that, you know, he liked me a lot. He loved me a lot. He wanted to get married. He was asking me to marry him then. But he told me that my family are not welcome.
Wow.
Like he doesn't believe in when you get married, everybody, you know, your family members calling you. He believes that a couple should be a couple and there's nothing like extended family. Do you get it? And for me, that didn't go down well with me. It was even a very big red flag. So I didn't even bother with even thinking about saying yes, because that was a no-no. So you must be able to know what your deal breaker is. You must be able to know what the value means to you. What exactly is that value? Now, when you now get married together, you will notice that you will now have values that wrap around your marital relationship or your family values. Now, your family, your values as a family may still be different from your value as maybe a corporate individual who maybe as a worker, right? So for me, commitment to my family may be me giving him my time, me giving, you know, my all. And then for somebody else, commitment may mean something totally different. So you want to find out that even in the midst of the meanings that you have for your various values, that there's some sort of alignment. Because when sometimes you don't marry your kind, you will notice that you will struggle. For example, somebody's value may be fun. Fun for me would mean being with my family, would mean hanging out with my close friends, would mean maybe gisting. For another person, fun may be, I'm not trying to be judgmental here, please. Fun for somebody else may be hanging out in the night. Fun may be taking hard drugs for somebody else. Do you understand? Fun may mean, you know, being wild and free for somebody else. So in as much as you want to know what your boyfriend or your fiance or your partner's value is important. You want to be able to know what that means to them, what that particular value means to that person. Do you get it? So if you say, for example, you are a church girl, and maybe your own, you've known night vigil, you're always going to vigil. Tuesday you are in the church, Wednesday you're in the church, Thursday you are in the church, Saturday you are in choir. It's great, it is fun for you. But then you meet somebody who believes that, oh, person likes to have fun, and fun is maybe you are the girl that doesn't like secular music, and then you are hanging with somebody who literally lives in the club, literally does all those things that you don't want to do, literally doesn't see anything with, maybe if you are somebody that is very particular about sex before marriage, then you now see someone who doesn't really share the same value with you, and you say, oh, because he's tall, because she's fair or dark, and she has nice curves, or let me just marry, or let me just date this person. You will notice that your values will always clash. So yes, it's important to have values that align, but most of the time they may not necessarily mean the same thing. But it's important so that you be able to manage lesser conflicts or have lesser conflicts.
Thank you so much. I really, really, really love how you responded to that question. I like the fact that you broke it down very well. That meaning is very important, and I all of the examples that is clear to say it must not be exactly the same, but beyond somebody just saying, "Oh, my values is authenticity," and we like, it's aligned. You must understand the meaning of what authenticity means, and then you must understand why. Why is it so even important? We say this is our values because it sounds cool when we say it.
Exactly.
It's cool. My values are trust, family. But in the living out of their life, can you really say this is the core value of this person? So it's one thing to say,
Yeah.
it's another
It's one
thing
thing to
to
continue. Yeah.
it's another thing to say, it's another thing to act in line with what you say. But because values are what drives our decision. So I cannot be saying my integrity and then I lie. You can see there is misalignment in that. So while you're watching out for the meanings, you're watching out for the whys, you're also watching out for what the person is doing. You know, they always say this thing, watch out for the patterns. Don't just look at what the person is saying with their mouth. What are they actually doing?
Can I shock you?
Yeah.
You know, sometimes even in when I'm counseling singles and someone says, when I say, what do you really want? And you must have fear of God. Oh, she
Mm,
must have fear of God, and
mm,
then I'll ask the person, okay, so what does this fear of God mean to you?
yeah.
Because you say, oh no, because you know me, I value spirituality. And I'll be like, did you study your Bible this morning? Say no. Did you pray last night? Just says no. Okay,
Mm.
so when you ask several important questions to
Check
um
to touch spirituality.
on this spirituality, you will see that it's
Yeah.
zero. So
Mm-hmm.
some people have borrowed values. They just say,
Values.
like you said, they just say it because it sounds cool.
Sound nice.
You get, so when you now ask them, okay, what exactly is this fear of God? And
Mm.
then the person begins to go round and round the table,
Mhm,
round
mhm.
and round the circle, because the person has not really even sat down to think. Now, I
Yes.
was also talking to a single, and then she said to me that, and she asked my permission to share,
Okay.
because I asked her, after we talked, that can I share? She said yes. I asked
Mm,
her, why do you want to get into a relationship with a certain kind of guy? She said
mm,
because they grew up in the same church,
mm.
and she likes how the family used to behave.
Wow.
So I now asked her, I said, okay, the family. She said yes. I
Mm,
said, are you getting married to the family? She said no, but since the father and the mother, they have integrity and they are responsible, she
mm.
believes that the guy will be responsible. So I now said, okay, so you want to give it a shot? She said yes, and they started dating, and then she realized that this guy's values had grown far apart from what the
Wow.
family values were
Ah,
from inception. And
wow.
then she came back and said, oh, did you know that I realized that we can't, continue in this relationship? And I said, why? She said, because she realized that they were far apart. So imagine that she held on to, I like the way the family,
Mm,
uh, the family people conduct themselves. I like the fact that the father has integrity. So you are now beginning to assume that because someone's father has a value of integrity, that the son will have that same value. So it doesn't work that way. It doesn't. So your values are in the things you do every day.
Yes.
Your values are in the things you do every single day. You will see your values. So if you say excellence is your value, and then you don't go to work, you don't do anything, everything you do on a daily basis takes you far away from excellence. You may want to check again to ask yourself, is my value really excellence? Or if it's really excellence, what do I need to do to begin to function in that manner, so that you don't begin to walk in incongruence, right? With what you really think that you want. So what people think they want sometimes may not even be what they want. So as you're hearing us today, and you are a single in this place, you want to sit in to reflect, what are your core values? What exactly is important to you? Why do you want to enter that relationship? You know, what is it that you get out of this relationship? And does this person actually have the same perception? You know, his worldview, or the way he sees life, or the way she sees life. Do we see life the same, you know, in the same, like, does our worldview or our perceptions to life, does it kind of align? Because it's some of those little things that actually bring conflict in relationships, really. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much. Our time is fast spent. Let me see if we can answer these questions in 5 minutes and be out. Somebody says, I don't know if this is complete. What happens when a fear you have shared is a major insecurity point for your partner? I think the person shared this when you were talking about your fears. Let me read it again if you understand it. What happens when a fear you have shared is a major insecurity point for your partner? So you have a fear and then you have shared it with your partner, then it becomes a major insecurity point for your partner. Do you understand the
Okay,
question?
this is actually a very good question, right?
Okay.
So when I was sharing my fears, right, I didn't just meet my husband or my boyfriend then and
Yeah.
just start sharing fears, right?
Okay.
We have been together for a while. We have been seeing each other. We have been, you know, dating, going out together, you know, and all that. And I knew the kind of person that he was. From the onset, he wasn't like every other guy that I had met. You know, when I just met guys, I'm used to, oh, you're so beautiful. You know, it's not like he didn't tell me that I was beautiful, but beyond that beauty, you know, there were so many other things that he saw. There were so many other things that we would talk about. So we had dated to the point that I was comfortable to share, because I knew the kind of person that he is. So, for example, if you're dating someone, you should be able to study the person to know whether it's okay for you to be able to share. Like I tell people, that it's not every single thing that you must disclose, especially if it is something that will not damage your relationship. If it's something that is very personalized, that you know that will not affect the relationship, and you're not in that space where you can share, it's okay for you to leave it as it is. And if you really want to talk to somebody, why not talk to a professional?
Yeah.
A professional counselor, as against just you you know, sharing, just talking about, like some people who I know someone who a lady who is not comfortable with her husband having female friends, right? And that was because the husband had told her about, you know, how, you know, he used to date a lot of girls, you know, his fantasies and all that. And madam has held on to these things and will not even allow anybody come close. In fact, she can even embarrass him in public. Is that bad? Right. So imagine that maybe he knew that she had such insecurities or issues that she was still dealing with, maybe the way she would have communicated may have been different. Do you understand? It may have been quite different, right? So you want to be able to study to know that this person is in that mental space where they can accept whatever it is that you want to be able to be to be vulnerable to share. Now, this is not to say that you should not be vulnerable. If it is something that would affect the relationship, it's important that you know when it is right to actually know what to share, right? But I always tell people that it is not every single thing that you should just run out and start sharing. You should be able to know who you're sharing with and the degree or the level of the relationship, that both of you are in. So you want to be actually careful. And then for that kind of relationship where the guy now has, or the girl now has insecurities, you want to be able to allay their fears. You want to be able to not forcefully grow that trust, right? You will grow that, so you will give them reasons to see that it's not like you're overly working out, overdoing yourself. You're actually helping that person to be comfortable in that space where they are where they lack, maybe they are having insecurity. Probably maybe you had some relationships in the past and you know shared, and your partner is not so comfortable with trusting you anymore. You want to begin to ensure that whatever you do, you don't give that person reasons to begin to, doubt you. You're just yourself. You are not trying so hard to outdo yourself, but you're kind of helping the person to win their trust. I said something when I started that my husband can keep his phone here. I won't even bother. If I pick it now, it may not be for me to maybe make a call because probably I've run out of credit, or maybe my network is not going, or I want to share hotspot. Do you get? And then the same with me. There are some days that maybe I'm chatting with my friend. I may just be in the living room and then you just come on, what's up? I was like, no, I'm chatting with one of my friends. And now my friend may even be a guy. And they'll be like, oh, okay, how is he safe? And then he goes, and that is because we have grown our trust level to where we are. So if you know that someone that you're dating has challenges with insecurity and all that, you want to be able to actually help them to be comfortable, in your space, right?
Thank you so much. I think you've really done just that. That question was by Uji Rojo, and please confirm that your questions have been answered. And then your last question, and we'll call it a night. This is from Success, and she says, so is it advisable to tell our dislike and likes, or should we wait and just leave them to figure out that through our actions? So I think this person asked the question when we're talking about when you are asking questions, don't ask direct. Find a way to infuse it in the conversations that you are having. And even if the arrest is something that shocks you, don't come down to hear more if you respond. So the person is asking, so we not tell them about our life, leave them.
Okay, this question is beautiful, right? Now you have likes and you have dislikes. One thing I want you to know today is that no way is the way. Let me say, there is no one single way side to a relationship. How my relationship works out for me, and I'm balling, right, is different from how Fejiro's relationship is. Is different from how another person's relationship is. So I know that people are saying don't be fixated on what works for you, what works for you, right? But then you should be able to communicate the things that you really like. Like, for example, if you're in a relationship and you enjoy quality time, right? And the guy is saying, okay, so what are some of the things that I'll do now and it makes you happy? There's nothing wrong with saying, oh, I just like to spend some time with you, you know, or maybe I just like it when you tell me nice things, right? You're communicating your love language, right?
Yeah.
But if it comes to maybe behavior or character wise, let me say things like maybe you're somebody that doesn't like people who hang out late in the night. You are someone that doesn't like someone who smokes, right? You're somebody that doesn't like drinking. You are somebody that doesn't like people who go to church too much. Do you understand? Hey, you now begin to say, the person now comes to you and maybe the person has done something that you don't really like. Then you are all over the place, you are shouting or you're angry. You're like, okay, I've told you, I don't like this thing. Hey, the person can hide if the person really wants to, date you. So what I'm saying is allow people to be themselves, right? Allow people to be comfortable around you to even be themselves.
Yes.
Now, I'm not saying if there's any need for you to correct someone or to tell the person that, oh, I didn't really appreciate the way you spoke to me, it's different. But in a situation where you're trying to change somebody's behavior and forcing it down the person's throat, remember that is an adult you're dealing with. And an individual can only change when he or she wants to change.
Yeah.
Right? You can't force somebody to change. You can't force somebody to be like you. People cannot be like you. You are you, and that person is themselves. So, yes, you can communicate your certain things that you like. When you guys are like deeply into it, you can also let the person know what your deal breakers are. You can have those conversations, but don't be like a traffic warden or a police officer that when people are dating you, you just bring out all the rules in the whole world, and then you now make yourself like uninteresting. Like there's some ladies that maybe you feel, oh, that the time is, you feel like it's absolutely like time for you to get married. Then any guy that you now meet, you don't ask a person, so when are we going to meet my parents? We have been dating for 3 months now. You are not saying anything. Yeah. What do you want him to say, really? And you know that the more you are pressurizing the person, number one, you are scaring the person away. Number two, you are not even enjoying the relationship yourself. So allow yourself to experience that friendship. Know that it's not all relationships that will end in marriage. Right? So if you have that mindset, you can be open to be able to enjoy your relationship. And if there's something that you really, really do not like, it's also okay for you to communicate it, but don't make it look as if you are just bringing out all the lists like you are perfect. And make sure that those expectations, those parameters that you have set, that person must be this, person must be that. You want to also ask yourself, are you that person?
Bam.
Do you get? You must be able to develop your own self too. So when you are saying that, oh, what are you bringing to the table? Because the bulk of the work also starts with self. So you must invest in self-development. You must invest in reading, reading books. You must invest in seminars. You must invest in premarital programs so that you can be able to do things right. So I hope I've answered that question. So if you have anything you want to share and you feel it is something that is very important to you, please don't neglect your feeling because you've said, oh, don't come and communicate everything you dislike. but let these people be able to be themselves, when they are around you. Yeah.
Wow. I don't want this to end. I'm enjoying the conversation. I'm enjoying the realness. I'm enjoying. I'm sure that our audience is also having a good time. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ife. Thank you. We are grateful. I'm sure many of the people listening to you want to connect with you, when they live here. How can we reach you? How can we connect with you?
Okay. Thank you very much. On Facebook, you can connect with me at
Okay.
Ifechukwu Mokelu Adigwe. Then on Instagram, you can connect to Ifechukwu at Ifechukwu Adigwe, at
Okay.
Ifechukwu Adigwe on Instagram.
Okay.
And if you want to actually have a chat with me, I'm sure that Coach Fejiro will be able to let you know how you
Yeah.
can be able to reach me.
Yeah.
But I'm
Yeah.
very
She
excited to be here.
Yeah.
I'm happy that we had this conversation.
Thank you so much. Can we say thank you in the as we let Coach thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this conversation. If you are not yet subscribed to our channel, what are you waiting for? You can see all of the juice, all of the insights that we are bringing to you. I'm sorry we took extra time, but you would agree with me that this has been very, very insightful. Thank you so much, Ife. Now, this is day 3. I told you at the beginning that it was going to be good, and it's been very, very good. We continue tomorrow by 8 p.m. Tomorrow's session. Hey, you don't want to miss it. You don't want to miss it. We have that meet tomorrow. Guys, ladies, he is really paired. And of course, we are open and honest with you. We're going open and you. We're sorry again for the glitch earlier, when we started. And please share with your friends. If you're not yet registered, please go ahead to register at www.askmrzsparkles.com/DC. At the beginning, I had mentioned that I have a vision, I have a plan this year to work directly with 150 single professionals and business owners. And by the end of this series, I'm going to be letting you know how we are going to do that. When you're hearing things like you check your values, value must align, and all of that, it's not just by saying it. You have to really sit down and check that you actually know your values. When we're saying know yourself, you have to ask yourself, do I know myself? How do I go about it? What do I do? These are important questions, and we're going to be breaking it down when we work together. Okay, so thank you so much, everyone. We have come to the end of this session. Please leave helping you. Send us feedback. I know that we're doing great work here, but is when I read from you and I see how this is transforming your life. Go ahead, share your comments with me here on YouTube, or you go to my Instagram page at @MrzSparkles. Send me a DM and tell your friends about the amazing things that we're doing here. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a beautiful, beautiful night. See you tomorrow. Bye.